Welcome to Beyond the Smile, the podcast where we dive deep into dental health, nutrition, and everything that makes life more beautiful.
All right, everyone, get ready for today's deep dive. We're going to talk about how to avoid dental disasters during holiday travel. We're taking a close look at a guide from Prime Dental Group. And trust me, you'll want to hear this. You guys remember when I told you about my crown popping off during that ski trip? Yeah, let's just say it wasn't a fun souvenir. And it definitely added an unplanned expense to the trip. But hey, live and learn right. I'm all about being prepared from now on. So, to help us navigate all of this, we've got our dental expert here. What are some of the most common dental emergencies that travelers face? Because, well, you know what they say. Forewarned is forearmed.
You're totally right. Prevention is definitely key. So the usual suspects are toothaches, and those can come from a ton of things. Then there's always the chipped or broken tooth, especially if you're a bit on the adventurous side. And of course, no one wants to deal with a lost filling or crown, especially when there's holiday feasting to be done.
Okay, so those are the things we definitely want to avoid. But what if, something does happen? Despite our best efforts, what are the signs that it's time to stop sightseeing and, find a dentist right away?
That's a great question. There are a few red flags you should never ignore, like severe pain that keeps you up all night or makes it hard to eat. That's a big one. Also, any swelling in your gums or your jaw or your face, that's not good. And uncontrolled bleeding, yeah, that's another sign to seek immediate attention. And if you're having trouble swallowing or breathing, that could mean a serious infection. So get help immediately.
Got it. So pain, swelling, bleeding, those are the big alarms. But before we even get to that point, I'm guessing a pre-trip dental checkup is a good idea.
Honestly, it's non-negotiable. Think of it like this. You wouldn't drive across the country without making sure your car's in good shape, right? A checkup lets your dentist catch any tiny issues. That might not be bothering you now, but could turn into a major headache on your trip, like a loose filling or a tiny cavity. Those things can get bad really quickly when you're away from home.
Makes total sense. Prevention over panic every time. Now let's talk about packing for those just-in-case moments. What exactly should go into a travel dental emergency kit?
Well, of course, you've got your travel-sized toothbrush and toothpaste. Those are non-negotiable, but you'll also want dental floss or interdental brushes. You got to get those nooks and crannies. Over-the-counter pain relievers like ibuprofen are a must. And here's one you might not have thought of: dental wax.
Dental wax. I'm intrigued. What's that all about?
So it's basically a moldable, non-toxic wax that you can use to cover a chipped tooth. Or a sharp edge from a lost filling. It creates a temporary barrier that can really be a lifesaver until you see a dentist.
That's a great tip. So it's not just about cleaning, it's about damage control too. Now you mentioned salt earlier. What's the deal with that?
Believe it or not, a small container of salt can be a lifesaver. Rinsing your mouth with warm salt water can do wonders for soothing gum pain or swelling. It's like a simple, natural remedy that can really help in a pinch.
Okay, I'm officially adding dental wax and salt to my travel kit checklist. You've convinced me. So let's say the worst happens, and despite our meticulous planning, a dental emergency strikes. What are the first steps we should take for common situations, like, say, a toothache?
All right, let's break it down. First up, the dreaded toothache. If you feel one coming on, start with a warm salt water rinse. This can help reduce inflammation and clean the area.
And then pain relief, is that where the ibuprofen comes in?
Exactly. Ibuprofen or acetaminophen are your best friends when it comes to managing tooth pain. You can also try applying a cold compress to your cheek to help numb the area. It's like a DIY ice pack for your tooth.
Okay, warm salt water rinse.
Yeah.
Pain relievers, cold compress. Got it. What if you chip or break a tooth? That sounds pretty scary.
It can be alarming for sure, but the key is to stay calm. Rinse your mouth with water, and if you can, save any tooth fragments. If there's a sharp edge that's bothering you, use that dental wax we talked about, or even a piece of sugar-free gum as a temporary cover. This will protect your tongue and cheek from getting cut.
Right. Rinse, save the pieces, cover the sharp edges. Got it. Okay, let's go worst case scenario here. What if a tooth gets completely knocked out?
Now this is where acting fast is crucial. If a tooth gets knocked out, pick it up by the crown. That's the part you usually see, not the root. Rinse it gently with water, again, being careful not to touch the root. Now, if you can, try to gently reinsert the tooth back into the socket.
Wait, put it back in? Seriously?
Yes, if you can do it gently. And without forcing it, it might sound strange, but it gives the tooth the best chance of survival if you can't reinsert it. The next best thing is to store it in milk. This helps keep the tooth moist and viable until you can get to a dentist.
The milk trick. That's a new one. You learn something every day. Okay, what about lost fillings or crowns? That seems like a pretty common travel mishap.
It happens more often than you think. If you lose a filling, try not to panic. If you have some temporary filling material in your bit, that's ideal. But in a pinch, a piece of sugar-free gum can work to protect the exposed area and prevent food from getting stuck.
Temporary filling, sugar-free gum. And avoid chewing on that side until you can get to a dentist.
Got it. Now, let's talk about finding emergency dental care. I imagine that can be quite a challenge, especially if you're in a foreign country.
You're right. It can be tricky. But there are resources out there to help you find a dentist, both domestically and internationally. If you're traveling within your own country, start by checking your dental insurance directory. They'll list in-network providers near your destination.
What if you're not sure about your insurance coverage? Or you're traveling abroad? What are our options then?
No problem. Most hotels have concierge services that can point you in the right direction. They're used to dealing with these kinds of requests. Online directories, like the American Dental Association's Find a Dentist tool, can be super helpful. And if you're traveling internationally, your country's embassy can usually provide a list of English-speaking dentists in the area.
That's reassuring to know. Any other tips for finding emergency dental care abroad? It can feel pretty overwhelming when you're in a new place. And don't speak the language. Absolutely. Don't forget about travel insurance. Make sure your policy includes dental coverage. And familiarize yourself with the claims process before you go. There's also a fantastic resource called the IAMMAT directory. That's the International Association for Medical Assistance to Travelers. They specialize in helping travelers find qualified medical and dental providers all over the world.
Okay, so we've got insurance directories, hotel concierges, online resources, embassies, travel insurance, and the IAMMAT directory. That's a lot of options. It sounds like being prepared is really about having multiple backup plans.
You got it. And here's another pro tip. Before you even leave home, take a screenshot of a map showing dentists near your accommodations. That way, even if you lose internet access or your phone dies, you'll still have a way to find help.
That is brilliant. I love that proactive thinking. It's all about being one step ahead. Okay, so we've covered pre-trip checkups, essential items for our dental emergency kit, and strategies for finding a dentist in a pinch. Now, let's shift gears a little and talk about something that's often overlooked. The impact of food and drinks on our dental health, especially when we're traveling and trying all sorts of new and exciting things.
Great point. That's a crucial part of the equation. Different cuisines and eating habits can really impact our teeth, especially when we're indulging in those holiday treats.
Exactly. I know we all tend to overindulge a little during the holidays, but I'm curious about how different cuisines around the world might affect our pearly whites. Is it just about sugar? Or are there other factors at play?
Sugar is definitely a major culprit, but it's not the whole story. One thing to consider is acidity. High acidity foods and drinks can weaken tooth enamel, making your teeth more susceptible to decay and sensitivity.
So citrus fruits, sodas, things like that. I know I've definitely felt that twinge of sensitivity after sipping on a particularly tart lemonade.
Exactly. And while those things are fine in moderation, it's all about finding a balance. Foods rich in calcium and phosphorus, like cheese and yogurt, can actually help strengthen enamel.
So it's not about deprivation. It's about making smart choices. Now, I'm thinking about some of the unique culinary traditions around the world. For example, in some Asian cultures, chewing betel nut is quite common. What's the impact of that on dental health? Is it something travelers should be aware of?
Betel nut. It's a fascinating cultural practice, but unfortunately, it can have some detrimental effects on oral health. Chewing betel nut stains the teeth a reddish-brown color due to the compounds it releases. But even more concerning is the link to oral cancer.
Wow, that's serious. It just goes to show that even seemingly harmless cultural practices can have hidden health implications. I think that's a great reminder to do our research before traveling to new places. It's not just about packing the right clothes. It's about understanding the local customs and how they might affect our health.
You hit the nail on the head. Being informed is key. And speaking of cultural influences, let's not forget about the role of sugar in different cuisines. In many parts of the world, sugary treats and desserts play a central role in celebrations and everyday life.
Oh, absolutely. I'm thinking about those delicious sticky rice desserts in Southeast Asia, or the rich pastries found in Europe. It's hard to resist those tempting treats when you're exploring a new culture.
I hear you. But as we all know, sugar is public enemy number one when it comes to tooth decay. Those bacteria in our mouths thrive on sugar and produce acids that attack tooth enamel. So the more sugar we consume, the higher our risk of cavities.
So it's not just about what kind of sugar. It's about how often we're exposing our teeth to it. Even small amounts throughout the day can create a breeding ground for those harmful bacteria.
Precisely. That's why it's crucial to be mindful of our sugar intake, especially when traveling. It's easy to get caught up in trying all the new foods and indulging in local sweets. But remember, moderation is key.
Right, moderation is the name of the game. Now, about drinks. Are there certain beverages we should be cautious of when traveling? I'm thinking about those colorful, fruity drinks that are so popular in tropical destinations. They look so refreshing, but I have a feeling they're loaded with sugar.
You're probably right. Those tempting tropical concoctions are often sugar bombs in disguise, but beyond that, it's wise to be mindful of sugary beverages in general, like sodas, fruit juices, and even some cocktails. They can contribute to tooth decay just as much as sugary foods.
So it's always a good idea to check the sugar content of any drink we're unfamiliar with, especially if it tastes extra sweet.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about acidity and sugar, but there's another dietary factor that can impact our teeth while traveling, and it often gets overlooked.
On all ears, what is it?
The texture of food. Chewy, sticky foods, like dried fruit or caramel, can cling to our teeth and provide a feast for those cavity-causing bacteria. And hard foods, like nuts or hard candies, can actually chip or crack teeth, especially if you're not careful.
That's a great point. I've definitely been guilty of mindlessly snacking on trail mix while hiking, not realizing the potential damage those hard nuts could be doing.
It's easy to overlook those seemingly harmless snacks, but it's worth being mindful of their impact on our teeth.
So what's the takeaway here? How can we enjoy all the delicious foods and drinks a new destination has to offer, while still protecting our dental health? Is it even possible to strike that balance?
Absolutely. It's all about balance and awareness. Don't be afraid to try new things, but be mindful of portion sizes and frequency. Balance those indulgences with teeth-friendly options. And most importantly, don't neglect the basics of good oral hygiene. That means brushing and flossing regularly, even when you're on vacation.
Great advice. It's not about deprivation. It's about making informed choices and being proactive about our dental health. I love how you've highlighted the connection between food culture and dental health. It's something we don't always think about, but it's so important to be aware of. Now, we've talked about the food we eat, but what about our eating habits? Are there certain things we do, often unconsciously, that can put our teeth at risk, especially when we're traveling and maybe not paying as close attention to our routines?
You're absolutely right. There are definitely some common habits that can sabotage our dental health, especially when we're on the go. One of the biggest culprits is using our teeth as tools.
Oh, I'm guilty of that. Tearing open a package with my teeth or using them to remove a tag. It's so convenient in the moment. But I'm realizing now how risky it can be.
We've all been there. But those seemingly harmless actions can actually chip or crack our teeth, especially if they're already weakened by other factors. And when we're traveling, we might be more likely to find ourselves in situations where we need to improvise, but it's important to resist the urge to use our teeth as tools and find a safer alternative.
Right, find a pair of scissors or ask for help, instead of putting our teeth at risk. What about chewing on ice? I know some people find it refreshing, but is it actually harmful?
Chewing on ice is a major dental don't. Ice is incredibly hard, and that repeated force of biting down on it can cause tiny cracks in your tooth enamel, known as microfractures. Those microfractures can weaken the tooth, making it more susceptible to chips and breaks down the road.
So even those seemingly harmless habits can have long-term consequences for our dental health. It's all about being mindful and making conscious choices to protect our teeth.
Exactly. And speaking of being mindful, let's talk about maintaining good oral hygiene while we're on the go. I imagine it can be challenging to stick to our usual routines when we're traveling and dealing with different schedules and environments.
You're telling me hotel bathrooms are not always the most conducive to a full-blown oral hygiene routine. But surely there are some tips and tricks we can use to stay on top of things.
Absolutely. There are plenty of ways to adapt our routines and prioritize oral hygiene even when we're out of our element. But we'll dive into those travel-friendly tips and tricks in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, cliffhanger. I'm already eager to hear more. Stay tuned, listeners, as we delve into the world of travel-friendly oral hygiene in part 2 of our dental deep dive.
Welcome back to our dental deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about some tips for keeping those pearly whites sparkling, even when you're on the go.
Yes, because let's be real, hotel bathrooms aren't exactly spas, and sometimes you're miles from a sink when that snack attack hits. So how do we stay on top of our oral hygiene game amidst the travel chaos?
Well, the first rule of thumb is to never underestimate the power of a good travel-sized toothbrush and toothpaste. They're your trusty sidekicks, no matter where you roam.
Agreed. Those are always the first things in my bag. But what about those times when you're, say, exploring a bustling market, trying all the amazing street food, and a toothbrush just isn't an option?
I'm glad you brought that up. For those moments, disposable dental wipes or mini floss picks are your secret weapons. They're perfect for a quick cleanup after a delicious but maybe not so teeth-friendly snack.
That makes so much sense. I can totally see myself discreetly freshening up with a dental wipe after indulging in some sticky street food. It's like a mini dental spa on the go.
Exactly. You've got the right idea. It's all about finding those little hacks that make it easy to prioritize oral hygiene, even when you're caught up in the excitement of travel.
Speaking of on-the-go freshness, what about mouthwash? Is that something you'd recommend packing?
Mouthwash can definitely be a valuable addition to your travel oral hygiene arsenal, especially if you're prone to bad breath or just want that extra burst of minty confidence. Just remember to choose a travel-sized bottle, especially if you're flying. You know, those TSA liquid restrictions can be a real buzzkill.
Oh, absolutely. I've had my fair share of travel-sized drama at security checkpoints. Now, speaking of flying, I've heard that changes in air pressure can affect our teeth. Is there any truth to that? And if so, what can we do to minimize any discomfort?
You've hit on a very real phenomenon. Those changes in cabin pressure during takeoff and landing can sometimes cause discomfort, or even pain in teeth that have fillings, or have undergone root canals. It all comes down to air pockets within the tooth, expanding and contracting with the pressure changes.
So it's like our teeth are experiencing their own mini altitude sickness.
That's a great way to put it. And the good news is, there's a simple solution. Chewing gum during takeoff and landing can help equalize the pressure and reduce any discomfort.
That's such an easy fix. Now let's talk about a travel essential. It's often overlooked when it comes to dental health. Water. We all know it's important for overall health, but what makes it so beneficial for our teeth, especially when we're traveling?
Water is like a superpower for your smile. It helps rinse away food particles, neutralizes those pesky acids that attack tooth enamel, and keeps your mouth hydrated. And that last part is key, especially when you consider the dreaded dry mouth. That can often accompany travel.
Ugh, dry mouth. I've definitely experienced that on long flights. It's not a fun feeling.
It can be incredibly uncomfortable, and more importantly, it can increase your risk of tooth decay. You see, saliva is like a natural defense mechanism for your teeth. It washes away debris and neutralizes acids. But when your mouth is dry, saliva production slows down, leaving your teeth more vulnerable.
So staying hydrated is about more than just quenching our thirst. It's about keeping our mouths happy and healthy.
Exactly. That's why it's so crucial to carry a reusable water bottle with you and make a conscious effort to refill it throughout the day. And if you do find yourself battling dry mouth, chewing sugar-free gum or sucking on sugar-free hard candies can help stimulate saliva production and bring back that much-needed moisture.
Great tips. Okay, so we've covered the importance of staying hydrated, packing those travel-sized essentials, and even some clever hacks for freshening up on the go. But what if, despite our best efforts, we do experience a dental issue while traveling? What are the absolute must-haves for a well-stocked travel dental emergency kit?
We touched on some of these earlier, but it's worth reiterating. The key players in your dental first aid lineup. First and foremost, your travel-sized toothbrush, toothpaste, and floss. Those are non-negotiable. Then you'll want over-the-counter pain relievers, like ibuprofen or acetaminophen to tackle any aches and discomfort.
And of course, we can't forget that magical dental wax, perfect for covering sharp edges or broken teeth.
You got it. And while it might seem a bit old school, a small container of salt for rinsing with warm water can be surprisingly effective for soothing toothaches or gum pain. It's a simple, natural remedy that our grandparents swore by for a reason.
Okay, those are all going on my packing list. This has been such an eye-opening conversation. We've learned so much about preventing and handling dental emergencies, from packing the right supplies, to understanding how our dietary choices, and even our everyday habits can impact our oral health, especially when we're traveling.
I'm thrilled you're finding it helpful. It's amazing how interconnected our health is with the world around us, even when it comes to something as seemingly simple as our teeth.
Well said.
Yeah.
And speaking of interconnectedness, I'm curious about something. We've talked about the importance of being prepared for dental emergencies. But what about being prepared for the unexpected in a broader sense? Are there any resources or tips you'd recommend for travelers who want to feel more confident and empowered to handle any health issue that might arise on their journey?
That's a fantastic question, and one that deserves its own deep dive. But in the meantime, There are definitely some proactive steps travelers can take to feel more prepared and in control of their health, no matter where they roam.
All right, another cliffhanger. I can't wait to hear more. Stay tuned, listeners, as we wrap up our dental deep dive with some empowering tips for staying healthy and confident on your next adventure. Okay, we're back. We're ready for the final part of our dental deep dive. We've covered so much, from those emergency kits to navigating all the food choices in foreign countries. But before we wrap things up, I'm really curious about those proactive health tips you mentioned, for travelers who want to be extra prepared beyond just dental care.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about empowering yourself with knowledge and resources. One of the best things you can do is research your destination's healthcare system before you even go. Are there specific vaccines recommended? What's the situation with local pharmacies and hospitals?
That's a good point. It's like having a roadmap for healthcare, just in case. What about language barriers? Those can be tricky for travelers, especially when you're trying to explain medical issues.
For sure. Learning even just a few basic phrases in the local language can be super helpful, especially for describing symptoms or asking for help. And there are also translation apps. Those can be lifesavers in those situations.
Technology to the rescue, right?
Yeah.
Are there any specific apps or websites you recommend for travelers?
Yeah, there are some great ones out there. For general medical info, the CDC website and app are excellent. They've got up-to-date travel advisories, vaccine recommendations, and info on common health concerns in different regions.
I'm adding that to my to-do list right now. Download that before my next trip. What about finding English-speaking doctors or navigating insurance claims abroad?
Well, for finding healthcare providers, that IAM directory we talked about earlier is amazing. They have a global network of English-speaking doctors and dentists. As for insurance, just make sure you understand your policy's coverage for international travel. Some policies have specific procedures for filing claims abroad, so familiarize yourself with those details before you go.
So much good advice. It sounds like information is really the key to feeling empowered and prepared. Anything else we should think about?
One last thing. Don't underestimate the power of a small first aid kit. Bandages, antiseptic wipes, over-the-counter pain relievers, motion sickness medication, all that stuff can come in handy, especially if you're going off the beaten path.
I love that. It's like having a mini pharmacy at your fingertips. Well, this has been an awesome deep dive. We've really covered it all, from preventing and handling those dental emergencies to feeling more confident and prepared for any health challenge that might pop up while we're traveling.
Absolutely. It's been great sharing these tips and insights with you. And remember, traveling is all about embracing new experiences. And that includes taking care of yourself so you can enjoy every moment to the fullest.
I couldn't agree more. A healthy traveler is a happy traveler. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We hope you feel ready to go. Protect that precious smile and stay healthy on all your future adventures. Safe travels, everyone.